welcome you to the West Indian Social Club right here in the city of Hartford. My name is Donovan Longmore. I'm one of your state co-chair for the Global Jamaica Diaspora Northeast. And my partner, of course, Diane Rod Younger, is here. As you know, before we do anything, we say a word of prayer. May we bow our head in silence, please. Most gracious and eternal Father God, we come before you honoring you on this day. We thank you for all your blessings and for all that you have bestowed upon us. Father, as we get ready to go through our meet and greet session, we ask that you may just keep our minds on one accord. We honor you and we glorify you in everything that we do, and we ask for your forgiveness and that you may have mercy upon us. Father God, as the Consul General and the Senator and all those who are represented here from delegates there, Father God, do their job. We ask that you may continue to bless them, guide them, lead them, and protect them in every direction. We're here for diaspora efforts and for people back home in Jamaica. As we continue to live and strive for excellence, dear Father God, we ask that you may just let your light shine upon us, dear God. We love you and we honor you, and we ask all these blessings in the mighty name of your Son, Jesus Christ, we pray. Amen. Now at this time, I ask somebody to take up the offering. No, I'm just joking. As you know, ladies and gentlemen, Hartford, Connecticut being, of course, one of the biggest diaspora representative in the state of the United States. And we are the third largest in the country. And tonight we have, for the first time, visiting us, delegates from Jamaica, which includes the Senator Honorable Leslie Campbell, Minister of State in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade. And also we have, of course, none other than the woman that put it all together. It is our Consul General of Jamaica to New York, Mrs. Alcion Wilson. We also have Mr. Van Wyck Rochester, Counsel, Ms. Leslie Paisley, who was in here, Vice Counsel, and of course, none other than the one and only Mr. Andrew Winters from PICA. And of course, we're here to engage and have all kinds of interaction with these wonderful delegates right here. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to turn it over to our Consul General, the one, the Honorable Alcion Wilson. Give her a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Donovan.
Mic for this.
Not allowed to cut my mic off.
It's on.
Thank you, Donovan.
You're welcome.
For the record, this is not my first time.
No, not your first time, the Senator's first time.
I just want to state that. It's not my first time visiting. Senator the Honorable Leslie Campbell, State Minister in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade. Of course, Mr. Luke Bowen, Mayor of Hartford. I believe he's not here yet. We were expecting him today.
Yeah, but he's not here yet.
Right. Of course, I don't believe that Ms. Suzette is here.
Another
Suzette?
function.
Devita?
Yes.
She's not here yet.
She's not here yet. Okay. All right. We have also Ms. Veronica Airy Wilson. For some reason, I thought that she was a relative of mine. And my friend, Mr. Andrew Winter. Mr. Winter is the CEO of PICA. So if you have your passport and immigration questions, your Jamaican citizenship questions, please don't direct them to me. I brought the man himself. He's sitting to my right. I also brought along with me Ms. Vassell, Director of Customer Service, and she's sitting to Mr. Winter's right. Of course, our Deputy Counsel, Mr. Van Wyck Rochester, and our Vice Counsel seated in the front as well, Ms. Paisley, and our CRO, Mr. Seneca. Fellow Jamaicans and friends of Jamaica, ladies and gentlemen, a pleasant good evening.
That should be good evening.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you, Minister. Donovan, have you fed them yet? Ladies and gentlemen, please, good evening. Good evening. That's what I'm talking about. I would like to begin by expressing my gratitude to our gracious host, Mr. Harold Smith, President of the West Indian Social Club of Hartford, for allowing us this opportunity to meet and greet here tonight. This is, though, my first visit to the West Indian Social Club, and it certainly will not be my last. Let me also... I told you that she's a relative of mine. Let me also say special thanks to our chief organizer, Mr. Donovan Longmore, and his team for mobilizing so many members tonight. You might think that we're small in numbers, but if you know me, you know that the small in numbers doesn't matter. I actually would have been quite happy if I showed up tonight and it was only one Diaspora member. It would have been worth it. So, the size here to me is plenty in number. Please give yourself a round of applause for being here tonight. I recall visiting this wonderful city 2 years ago. And of course, Ms. Corinne Holness will recall that she attended the event that night. I engaged with business leaders, community members, potential investors, and other stakeholders as we sought to forge meaningful partnerships that would open and deepen relationships with Connecticut. At that time, we began exploring the possibility of establishing a sister city agreement with the cities of the city of New London, Connecticut, Granton, Connecticut, and the town of Granton and the city of Kingston. Ladies and gentlemen, I am pleased to announce that today our mayor of Kingston, His Worship Delroy Williams, signed the MOU for a long-standing, awaited sister city agreement. You all better clap yourselves again. You don't know what this means. Lots of opportunities for you guys here in Connecticut. The MOU, which was endorsed by the Minister of State, Senator the Honorable Leslie Campbell, will now allow for mutually beneficial exchanges in the fields of arts. I saw the lovely artwork back there. Business, culture, education, health, sports, tourism between Kingston and the cities of Granton, New London, and Kingston. Today's meet and greet, therefore, allows us a special opportunity to celebrate this important milestone, especially coming on the heels of the emancipation and incredible victory of the Tokyo Olympics. You know, I love you guys. 1, 2, 3.
Clean sweep.
So what happened to the clap?
CG, before you go ahead, I saw some notation that that's going to be Jamaica's new era code.
Well, Mr. Longmore, I would have to give that approval. Not minister. So, no, really, 1, 2, 3 on the tracks. And with this, ladies and gentlemen, I can safely say, number 4 on the diplomatic and partnership front. I am also delighted to finally be in the same physical space with so many of you here tonight, considering the limitations of the COVID-19 pandemic. I thank you for the collective efforts. Thousands of Jamaicans and students will finally have equity in accessing to much-needed tablets and laptops, thereby ensuring their active participation in the remote learning environment. We have, without a doubt, worked stronger together as partners, as friends, towards ensuring that no Jamaican student is left behind. My Minister of State, the Honorable Leslie Campbell, is committed to facilitating partnerships that will achieve just that. This is in keeping with his vision of helping all Jamaicans realize their fullest potential. He hopes to achieve this objective by ensuring that there is a clear line of communication between the government of Jamaica and the Jamaican diaspora on matters of high importance to the diaspora. For those of you who were unable to join our business luncheon today and our annual Independence Church service, please allow me to take this opportunity to briefly introduce our state minister. Senator the Honorable Leslie Campbell is a British-trained barrister and attorney at law practicing in Jamaica since 1994. Minister Campbell has served as a member of the Council of the Jamaican Bar Association and was a former president of the Advocates Association of Jamaica. Minister Campbell also served as chairman of the National Health Fund, a member of the board of Petrojam Limited, Southeast Regional Health Authority, the Transport Authority Limited, and as commissioner at the Anti-Dumping and Subsidies Commission. He was elected as a member of Parliament for Northeast St. Catherine in 2016, where he served until August of 2020. In this post, he also served as Minister without Portfolio in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation in the Ministry of Industry, Commerce, Agriculture, and Fisheries. Allow me to therefore invite our beloved minister, Senator the Honorable Leslie Campbell, who will share his vision and passion to deepening engagement and partnerships with our Jamaican diaspora, especially the diaspora here in Hartford. Ladies and gentlemen, our State Minister, the Honorable Leslie Campbell.
Good evening. Good evening. Oh, you got something whilst CG was speaking. I don't know what it is that has been fed during that time, but may I hope that you have been, that the nutrition levels have been raised, because every time I speak, you must clap me. The joke aside, let me thank you, all of you who are here for having come out. I know you have other things that you could have been doing. But it is important for us to engage each other. And I know some of you will be very skeptical about ministers coming, and you've heard undertakings given before, and you say to yourself, sure, nothing now will go on, just the same old talk. But I ask you to reserve those criticisms until I explain. Before I get there, let me acknowledge the Queen. You know who I describe as the Queen. She sits to my right, Lady Alcyon Wilson. She's all Queen. And let me acknowledge my friend, Mr. Andrew Winter, the head of PICA, and his assistant, Ms. Vassell, who is the Director of Customer Services. But like all good parson, me christen my picnic first, right? And a number of you would look at me and say, well, You can't relate it to nobody. Not at least if she's pretty. And she's a doctor. One of the top, a Harvard-trained doctor. Not just one doctor. So, she's a good doctor. Dr. Money Greenford will, and just today I discovered that the mayor for Bloomfield, Mrs. DeVita Brown, her mother is from the same neck of the woods in Jamaica as I am. So I have very, very close connections. I was really enthused because when we stopped for lunch, she came over and she said, "Mommy said I must greet you." So it does warm my heart then when you come into a space like this and you meet people who you have first-hand knowledge of what they're about. And I can tell you that Mrs. DeBeaton, DeBeaton Brown, she comes from a family of, historically they've served as teachers and preachers and all kinds of things. They're all good things. So I can say that you have a very good person in the form of Mrs. DeBeaton Brown. But my own appointment, well, CG has already referenced the several support people that we have, Mr. Von Roy Rochester and all the other people, so we acknowledge them. My appointment came as State Minister for Foreign Affairs came in September of last year. And by reason of the impact of COVID, COVID gets blamed for everything. So COVID, the economy is in ruins, we blame COVID. We can't go to the beach, we blame COVID. We can't go to the shops, we blame COVID. We can't hug our children and our significant others. We blame COVID. And the reality is that we have to learn to cope with that. We have to learn to pivot. Just yesterday, I was reading something extracted from Lancet, which is the UK-based medical journal. And what it says to us is that we are likely to face a variant of the coronavirus, which will go around everything, the drugs that we have, the vaccines which we have. And it's a frightening thought. And may I just say, for those of you, for whatever reason you're saying that you're not going to take the vaccine, let me suggest that the science is not with you. And I'd encourage you, if not for you, for the little ones that you have around you. The world is such a place now that we live in such densely populated communities, most of us, that any movement at all could compromise a relative, a friend, and you'd not want to carry that burden of passing an infection around. So I'd encourage you to make use of the facilities which you have. And as I understand it, well, in fact, the mayor told me today that that Pfizer is actually in and around these parts. So you have what I describe as the creme de la creme in terms of the vaccines. But let me get to specifically what I want to discuss with you. And I want to focus on the cynicism which has crept into the narrative. That all we hear is talk from from Jamaica, and there's been no action. Well, the action starts now. There is a reservoir of intellectual capital which resides outside of Jamaica. You may think that because we are doing so well at athletics and we are punching above our weight, we are doing so against competing like, I listened to there was a gentleman from Ecuador today. They have a population of somewhere in the region of 15 million, which is 5 point whatever percent of 500%, sorry, of the population that we have. And yet, in all their years, they've just had 2 medals, and those 2 medals have come in cycling. So you can see that we're doing some things right. We've used our school system, our primary school system, we've used our high school system to attract the talent, and we have nurtured it to the extent now that we are beating the big United States of America at that game. Just this morning I was looking at a picture of the 100 and 200 meters dash, and in the last 4 Olympics, we have just encircled the big United States of America. And I use that just to illustrate what we can achieve if we are sufficiently engaged, if we chart a course and a sustainable course. That course can only be pursued if, in a meaningful way, if we engage that intellectual capital, which resides outside of Jamaica. And at this stage, let me commend your CG for having taken the initiative she did when the education system was really, really seriously threatened, in that our students were to be tutored online, and a number of them, particularly in the rural parts, couldn't gain access. And she went on a drive together with the Ministry of Education, and their efforts of putting in the hands of students in Jamaica in the region of 4,500 units. That's a commendable feat, and I'd ask you to acknowledge that kind of work. It could have been much different. And let me thank you for participating in that effort. We have to now engage at a higher level. We have to look at the education product in terms of the realities which confront us. We have to compete with the rest of the world, and if we don't make the content relevant to the 21st century, we're going to be in trouble. We have to recognize that tourism, and tourism in the traditional sense, what has been thrown up is that it is very fickle. You have one little event and it could face a serious downturn, and the earnings from that will go with it. So we are pivoting, and we really want to change the economy, and to change it in such a way that we make it into a knowledge-based economy. We're very close to America. You know, we are just 90 minutes away from the southern tip, Florida. And a lot of businesses in the United States which had outsourced their work to places like India are now looking to places which are closer home and where the language is similar to that which you speak. So in that context, we would want to repackage our education output. And we need people like yourselves with the knowledge, the understanding of operating in a more organized society to help us to repackage that. Thanks to people, I don't know if Mr. Owens is not here. We have Mr. Owens and Mr. Lindo they met with us yesterday, and they have a wonderful program being put together to help us to do just that. But of course, the more the merrier, and with an expanded group, we'll have all that capital to work with. Of course, there are several other areas outside of education. We had, at a certain time in our history, manufacturing entities which populated the shores in the Bell Road and the western part of Kingston in a significant way. And they packed up and they left. And you'll ask yourself, why did they leave? Well, a big part of that is that the cost of energy was too expensive. And so they went to places like Costa Rica, Puerto Rico, they went to Trinidad and Tobago, where the energy was much cheaper. So in trying to diversify our energy mix, we will need help with that. Just today, as part of our discussions we were having, is the mayor, Mr. Edric, I think that's his name, spoke to us about the energy generated from the sea. And any point you are in Jamaica, within an hour, you can reach the coast. If you're in the center, within an hour, you can reach the coast. And we could benefit in a significant way from people with a kind of expertise, which would help us to build those turbines and to design them. And we know that the engineers are here. We know that the other managers, the engineering managers, reside not so much in Jamaica because we have not had that experience. We have a challenge in Jamaica with building homes for workers. I've been advised not to speak about low income, because people think when you say low income, you're meaning the equivalent of project housing. That's not what we're talking about. There are several technologies which are available now, and we could benefit from having those technologies. Very recently, the Prime Minister issued an invitation for people within the diaspora to submit proposals to the government of Jamaica to build that type of housing. So if you are in that kind of business where, instead of the traditional block and steel and concrete, you have access or you can develop your own systems to make building these units more affordable. Of course, taking into consideration that we are in a zone where every June, we can look forward to 1 or 2 hurricanes. and we are prone to earthquakes and such other weather systems. So it is against that background that I want to personally engage the diaspora in a meaningful way. We want it to be a true partnership. We want, and let me just say this here, there was a criticism leveled at one of our ministers of government that we were treating the diaspora as an ATM. That criticism, if I may respectfully say so, shows a lack of understanding or let me say not so much understanding and a lack of appreciation of what the minister was in fact saying. He spoke in a context where he was asked to comment on what was happening on the crime scene and how we propose to manage all of that. But let me say up front, the face of crime in Jamaica has changed in a significant way. It's something, the students at universities and so on, when they're looking at development studies now, the first thing they do is to pack their bags and run off to North America or to some place in Europe. And what they come back with is some proposals which were designed in Europe or North America. How do you go off to a region where development and so on totally ignores the cultural factors, totally ignores what is unique to your operations? You have to be actually engaged locally in order to present a true picture. So it is in that context in which Minister Chang spoke, says, we have the expertise that we need on the ground. But you can assist us with financing. And of course, that was taken out of context. The context was not placed before a very critical community. But that was, so may I just ask you to just have that debunked. That is not what was intended by the minister. You have to understand, in our attempt to manage crime, we have, perhaps for the last 10, 15 years, been inviting persons from outside of Jamaica to participate in the program to manage the JCF, and to a lesser extent, other ancillary forces. And persons from North America, members, former FBI officers and all, who are descendants of Jamaicans, have applied. And so there has been engagement. It just so happens that our experiment with using officers from outside has not served us very well. And I'll say this, we used a British officer at a very senior level. But here is where we made, in believing that we could import the know-how into Jamaica and that could solve our problems. It didn't serve us well. So what we are attempting to do is to have the solutions designed locally, but we need help. And let me just say this. 90% of the serious crimes in Jamaica today, they are committed using the firearm. Can you tell me how many firearm manufacturers are in Jamaica? Can anyone hazard a guess? 0. So those firearms are coming from North America. And it is not for want of engagement. We have sought the assistance of our neighbors to the north. Say to them, listen, we need your assistance in stopping the flow of sidearms, small ammunitions, from reaching our shores. Just think of what it takes to police the ports and to find those things which are coming in. Because as I say, we don't manufacture, so they must come from somewhere. And for the better part, we can say we have the evidence that those firearms are coming from North America. And they'll find their way through Haiti and other countries where the level of control is not as rigid. But they do reach our shores. But the North Americans will tell us, oh, we're more concerned with what is happening in the Middle East. We're not really concerned about ammunition, guns and ammunition coming through. We don't have the resources, they'll tell you that. So we have a big problem. But I can assure you, together with, I can't speak too definitively, or I can say that we are having intelligence put in place which would assist us in stemming those flows. We have contracts signed with some very, let's say, some very smart people who will be able to monitor our coastline, because you know our coastline is very porous. Just think of, if you think from Port Antonio right around, you will have 200 and odd ports. And trying to police that is no easy thing to do. So we're getting electronic devices put in, radars put in place. But again, we won't be able to do that overnight. It's very expensive, and the other associated technologies are very expensive. You have to understand that you can only stop some of these crimes if you can prosecute them. If a man believes that he's going to be caught and prosecuted and convicted and serve time, he'll think about it. But if he's almost certain that you won't be able to get him, and even if a man witnesses a crime, he's afraid. We have a culture in Jamaica where we say, infam of the dead. That's a reality. So a number of people, even if they witness crimes, they are unwilling to come to court and give that evidence. And without the evidence, even when, if you know the Jamaican thing, is that we know say Tom killed John. We know. But you know when you go to court, it's a different level of proof which is required. And we wouldn't want it to be otherwise. We need a solid system so that but in a society of criminals, we have criminals overrunning the place. It is the guilty that goes to jail. So we really want to have that reversed. And so that's what we're working towards, to build up smart centers so people who commit crimes They can be tracked using electronic devices. That information is then uploaded to the satellite, and the satellite would beam it into a centralized operation, and then all we need is a police officer or scientific officer to go into court and say, well, yes, the systems were operating efficiently, they were working okay, and yes, that is the man which was caught on the camera at number 2 Gold Street, and he's the one who is seen on the camera to discharge the weapon. So that is where we're trying to get to. And I can tell you that that is we're way down the wicket. Those agreements are signed, and in terms further, we have a system in place where our public spaces are being fitted with cameras. Very recently, you would have heard that there was a killing which took place on Old Oak Road, and within 5 minutes, in and around, if those of you who know where Devon House is, there was a shootout that took place around there. The police officers were able to take out the people who did the killing. And that was a matter of 5 minutes. And that assistance came by way of that technology, which is available on the public way. So we want to have more of that. We want to engage people who have, in terms of the other areas that we really want to, you know that sugar is dead in Jamaica. Sugar is dead. So we need to replace sugar. You'd have heard the Minister of Agriculture speaking to, they want to set up farms, and I know a number of you love mangoes. I understand when the mangoes get here, they don't have hands to sell them. So so the more of it you have, the prices will go down. One sugar estate, they're taking 1,000 acres of those lands just to do mango farming. So those of you who are want to participate in Jamaica's development can, and you have agricultural skills, you're an agronomist, you are whomever you are, and you can raise the financing, there are lands available. I am willing to facilitate any of this that I'm speaking to, working through JAMPRO and the other agencies that we have, which are set up to deal with such matters. I don't know how many of you, well, I'm told that in this area that you have a number of people who are involved in health. And this may be a little controversial, but in recent times we were supposed to have this year the Diaspora conference. We had to call that off for obvious reasons. But instead we put together something called the Sustainability Symposium. And one of the speakers at that forum was Dr. Abel, who is a noted psychiatrist. And he spoke to all getting involved in mushroom farming, which is not as regulated as ganja. Where the extracts, Dr. Rainford may not agree with me, but Dr. Abel is at the forefront of pushing that kind of engagement, where the extracts from the mushroom would be used to treat psychiatric illnesses. Again, there are lands available, and the know-how as to how to grow mushrooms is there. So you can participate. There are lots of things where we don't have that level of regulation as the United States or other places have. So I really want you to see Jamaica as a place that you can do business. And the Jam Pro is there, and whereas formerly it was difficult to access information, it is much easier these days. If you just call CG's office, she can put you directly in touch with all those people, and they can pretty much from one shop just provide you with everything, all the access that you need. And perhaps you can give us the feedback as to what the experiences that you've had in trying to do business in Jamaica. We're climbing up the scale in terms of how the ease with which we do business. You may say, well, we just moved 2 points or whatever it is. But the fact is that we are putting in place several pieces of legislation to make it much easier to do business. And for exports, we've removed the tax on a certain level of imports, which if you're a small exporter, you have reduction in fees, and it's been made much easier to do that kind of business. And of course, because the pandemic has hit us and we need to grow and grow quickly, because in the last 20 years or so, we have not grown more than, say, 1% per annum. That doesn't make sense. We have to find a way, and as part of our engagement is to do all that is necessary to facilitate that growth, to have us climbing up back to 5%, which will allow us to take care of an elderly population, which we have, because we have to take care of them, to finance an underserved national health system. And just last week, Minister Samuda opened up a new source of funding let me not say funding, an assistance program to persons who were not able to contribute to the system there in terms of what we had before. We had the national insurance scheme, and when that started, it was described as SIN, NIS, and people turned it backwards and called it SIN. Now we have hundreds of thousands of persons who contributed, who are benefiting. Mark, it's not a whole lot, but the fact is that it's something. But the government has gone outside of that now and said, well, listen, we have this aging population, and these are people who, for whatever reason, were not able to contribute to the scheme. Notwithstanding that, we are saying that you're entitled to something because you would have paid tax in the system. And albeit it's a small amount, we are doling that out now to persons who are upwards of 75 years old. So we need to finance all of this. And we need to be a more humane society, and it's part of how you measure that is by looking at how we treat those vulnerable people. So I hope I've given you a better understanding of what is happening here. And let me thank all of you who, in circumstances where you had your own challenges, open your hearts to Jamaicans when the pandemic struck. Last year, we had something like a 23% increase in remittances. And that 23% represented something like $600 million. And you ask yourself, how was the diaspora able to do that? We have taken that. We've looked at the profile of all people who are here and who are in the UK or in Canada, and a significant number of them serve in the health services, and so that they weren't as badly affected as the other working groups, and they took care of their relatives and friends in Jamaica, and for that I thank you very much. And I know the government of Jamaica extends its appreciation for all that you've done during those periods. We know that will continue, but we really want to move away from the description which was attached to the relationship which, before now, was viewed in a rather one-sided way. We want to really engage you and to give you an opportunity to earn, to benefit from what is happening in Jamaica. I am available at pretty much any time to answer any questions that you have as regards what is happening or what is likely to happen in Jamaica. And I sincerely hope I will be properly, I'm placed to if I don't have the answers, I'll be able to find the answers for you. And I really want you to see me as the access point. And as I described to some business leaders who we met with yesterday, all I do is to carry a key to open the doors. But I sincerely hope you, once you get through the door, then you can make the presentations, and because I tell you what, there are some significant opportunities. If you don't take them, other people will take them. I'll give you an example in the one I mentioned, in the housing. We have a proposal on the table now from an Asian company to build 1,000 housing units. But they're using the proposal that they've put forward does envision them using local contractors to build out, and all that they would do is to provide the technology and so on. But who is going to make the money? They are the ones who are going to make the money. And I can tell you that I believe, based on the history of the diaspora, that the diaspora is more likely than not, to support Jamaica in its quest for economic development and growth. More likely to invest in Jamaica and to invest in Jamaican people than that particular group, who my mother describes them as being like bamboo root. Because when a bamboo root grows in any particular place, that place is dead as a doornail. I can tell you that there are other opportunities. Jamaica is going to divest its 20% stake that it has in JPS. There is an opportunity for you to participate in that. There I think, I'm trying to recall which other state entity is going on the blocks very soon, but the one that comes to mind readily is JPS. And you may want to participate in that. And as I mentioned, agriculture, as I mentioned, education. And there is something which is on the horizon. If we can train sufficient numbers of our people, I know several hundreds of thousands of persons are going into places like Turkey and those Asian units, countries for treatment. We have as good or better health professionals in Jamaica. So you may want to look at that and say, well, I am able to provide those kinds of services to the insurance companies who reside or operate in the United States. And you may want to provide the services there, which cost much less. So just food for thought. I'd want to stop there, and so that you have an opportunity to ask me, the specific questions that you want. I know earlier this afternoon I was engaged, one of your members inquired of me, and perhaps I'll just broaden this, as to what about diaspora members voting in Jamaica. Well, let me just broadly say, there is absolutely no ban on Jamaicans wherever you reside. If you are registered, as the law requires, to vote in Jamaica, you can come home and vote. You can come home and vote. But the law requires that you have a registered address in a constituency in Jamaica. And if you can afford, if the elections are announced 21 days from now, and you feel like you want to participate, you come and vote. There's no bar on it. Where I think we need to take the narrative is whether or not Jamaica is prepared or can facilitate members residing, whether it's North America, Europe, or otherwise, allowing them to just turn up and vote. No. I can say, I have no objection to your coming home once you're registered there. Vote. But to ask a state to put itself at risk of that election machinery, the democracy being thwarted by persons sitting remotely and impacting, that would require significant constitutional amendment. And those discussions can take place. But I don't know where they'll take us. I can't say. My own feeling is that until we reach that level of maturity where we can have the discussion, let us use what we have so that we don't sort of automatically just get up and, prejudice ourselves, prejudice what we have. You already have the right, use it. But whereas to have persons residing, in North America or wherever, impacting on, well, just think of it. Just think of the logistics. Getting people, you have 250 persons, out of 50,000 persons residing in this area. And let's say of that 250,000, we have 100,000 persons who are over the age of 18 and registered to vote. Let's say they decided that they wanted to vote in central Kingston. Do you see the possibility? Or what is likely where you're residing outside, you just go in there and you vote to change it to whatever you want it to be without having any obligations there? It's a little bit, far-fetched. It requires a lot of maturity, and I'm not sure that we have attained that level of maturity yet. But my saying that is it's not a pronouncement that I'm making on it, because I am not at the level where I can say yea or nay. I'm just putting the arguments as they've been put, and hopefully we can have a mature discussion and hopefully arrive at a position so that to our mutual benefit. I'm open to answering any questions that you may have, or I'll attempt to answer them. But that's insofar as I'd want to go this afternoon.
Thank you so much, Senator Campbell. Give him a round of applause. Before we get to the question and the answer, he touched on a very important point that we'll get back to. We have Mr. Andrew Winter from PICA, Passport, Immigration, and Citizenship Agency. Just take a few seconds to say a few words, and you can sign up in the back there, ladies and gentlemen, because he will be coming back to Hartford for PICA. So, Mr. Winters.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Minister of State, Senator Honorable Leslie Campbell, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, the Consul General for Jamaica in New York, Ms. Alton Wilson, members of the audience, and the other members of the team which came up. Firstly, I'd like to say I'm very happy to be here in Hartford, and give yourselves all a big round of applause, please, because PICA is coming and will be coming to Hartford from the 5th to the 12th of October. I'm particularly proud to be here today because one of the objectives of PICA is to reach our Jamaicans in the diaspora. The minister alluded that many persons in the diaspora want to contribute, and PICA has the key. He spoke about the key earlier. Well, Minister, just let you know, PICA has the key, which is your Jamaican passport, so please come and collect your keys. All right? Many of you have children, many of you have relatives, wives, spouses, who you also want to bring back to Jamaica. Your children are entitled to citizenship by descent, and we are looking forward and encouraging every Jamaican here, all 250 Jamaicans, to get your children to become citizens of Jamaica so that they can enjoy that heritage which you enjoyed. Miss Lou and Mas Ran, Usain Bolt, Bob Marley. These are all heritage, and many of them are Jamaicans at heart. And we want them to come and be part of that heritage as well. So there's citizenship by descent. If you're married to a foreigner, an American, they can become citizens as well. And if they don't want to become a citizen, but they want to come back to Jamaica, the agency offers permanent residency to them so they can come and live in Jamaica with you and enjoy the retirement and drink Red Stripe beer and Appleton rum and eat jerk pork and jerk chicken. Right, Councilwoman?
Councilwoman wants to sleep.
So PICA is an agency. I know many of you, when you left Jamaica, your experience was, Lord, the passport office. Well, we have come a long way since then. You can now renew your passport as an adult if you have a machine-readable passport. And let me explain what is a machine-readable passport. You remember some of you left when you had a handwriting passport. And you had the big blue book, and some of you the hardcover old book, where you paste your picture inside of it. Some of you wouldn't even recognize yourself in that passport now. Not true? Right. If you have those passports, you can't renew them online. But if you have the machine-readable passport, those you can renew online if you're an adult. And it's much simpler. and then we return your passport to you through our DHL courier service with a partner with us, so you can renew your passport from the comfort of your home. Also, we have what we call our Simplified Adult Renewal Form. In that one, you don't need a JP. Again, you have to have a machine-readable passport, and your pictures don't have to be certified. And once you complete that form and all your information remains the same, again, we have simplified the process to ensure that you can get back your Jamaican passport. The picker has been really working over the last few years to create a wonderful experience for the Jamaicans. We know many of you want to get back your Jamaican passports, but the challenges which you had many years ago has stuck with you. And we want to change that experience so that you can see, it's not difficult either to obtain many of the benefits and the products and services that the agency has to offer. I'd like to thank Councilwoman Shirley Surgeon, the Mayor, Ms. Suzette Brown, Ms. Violet Haldane, and Ms. Beverly Reed. She's here?
Red.
Beverly Red. We have met with them, and we are working together to make sure that we put on a very good outreach program. That's something else that the agency is doing. We are taking our services to the diaspora. We've been to Atlanta, we've been to Fort Lauderdale, we've been to Toronto, and it's time we come to Hartford. Don't you all agree? No, man, if you clap me like that, I'm not coming. I want to hear one clap, I want to hear like, CG, you think I should come with a clap like that? No, I'm going to stay at Jamaica. COVID, right? So it is really my pleasure, along with Mrs. Vaslow, our Director of Customer Service, to be here today to speak to you. And I look forward to working and doing our best to ensure that all of you get back your little piece of Jamaica, which is your passport. And as I said, the minister spoke about your key. Well, your passport is your key to come back to Jamaica to enjoy all the benefits that the country now has to offer. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Winters. Now we're going to do question and answer. Mr. Winters from PICA, Passport, Immigration, Citizenship, and of course, Senator Leslie Council.
Ask the minister all the questions.
All right, if you can't sound loud enough, I have a microphone. Gentleman over there. I don't know how loud you can talk without.
Thank you. I think I can take that. Yes, good night. Good night, everyone. Good night. Protocol has been met tonight. My name is Stafford Grant, and I am the Citizen Security Coordinator for the Northeast Diaspora. And first I want to say thanks to Consul General and her team. They have been doing a tremendous job for us here in the States here. And thanks for having the minister here. Now, the minister has mentioned a lot of stuff there that some I agree with and some I'm disagreeing with, because there's a point that in security, we know that what security is like in Jamaica right now. But one of the points that is bothering is the infrastructure, especially the capital of Jamaica, Kingston. And that creates a big gap within the security forces, wherein that the communities are not being redeveloped, and people are being moved to other areas, and the crime and what they do there, it escalates into those areas spread across. When I just recently returned from Jamaica, and I take it upon my duty to travel Kingston and St. Andrew. And I drove all the way through Trenchtown, Jonestown, Tivoli Gardens, Waterhouse, Hannahtown, Tivoli Gardens, all the way down.
And you're a live person?
Me, right, yes, right down. I drove into Trenchtown, and I get up my car at Coliseum Drive at Boys Town, and I walk around and I look around and I spoke to some other citizens there, some other residents there. And I said to myself, why is it that the infrastructure here is not being rebuilt inside our homes? Because I used to live in those areas. I am from those areas, and I used to live there. But the thing is, if it is not being done to give the resident a place to live, somewhere comfortable, and that's what the citizen of those areas would like. There's no infrastructure to the building so they can have investment. They still gotta be selling on the sidewalk and they put up their tents. There's nowhere properly to have any income good that they can get support from. So some of those things can help eliminate the crime structure there. Now, there's a lot we can talk about the security thing. Now, the thing about it, I'm a part of the Diaspora that I'm big in the charity. Because right now at this stage, we are working on opening a learning center in Savalama, Westmoreland. We just shipped off 14 computers. 2 weeks ago, I was down there having a meeting in the church where it's going to be with the bishop, and we have some discussion about the kids. In this same process right now, we are trying to put a learning course together for the youths in that area so they can be occupied for the summer. Now, the problem is, whenever you ship anything off to Jamaica in charity, it creates a red tape and creates a lot for us to pay to clear it, and it is for charity. So those are some of the areas I wish that you could look into, that we are the associations that are helping the youths and the communities in Jamaica, that whenever you ship anything for charity, it is more easy to be cleared and not a lot of expenses there. You mentioned also about the medical part of it, but one thing I didn't hear you mention about mental and disability. I think the mental and disabilities in Jamaica are very ignored. There's a law that has been passed, but it's not been enacted. So some of those things I think that we could look into, how our mental and disabled personnel are being treated in Jamaica. It's need to be restructured, and it can be taken seriously. But there's more, but I will leave space for others to say something. Thank you, sir.
Want to respond to that, Minister?
Let me say, all of that you've mentioned are issues which we take seriously. But let me deal with the issue of engagement with mental health issues. There was a point when we had Bellevue, and studies were done, and a decision taken that we should have these people treated in the communities, that the outcomes are better when they were treated in the community. Perhaps we need to revisit that as to whether that is the better option, because most of the persons were then shipped off. And because you just think about the historical context in which all of this came about. Some place like Bellevue. There's a philosophy which says, well, people, mad people, so-called mad people, must be locked up and kept by themselves. And I think that shifted to, if we take a more humane approach, a more caring approach, and people were closer to their families and so on, that the outcomes are better. And with that shift, Bellevue and such institutions were no longer necessary at that level. And as I said earlier, perhaps we need to revisit that and take a slightly different approach. But I think our system of measurement may be deficient. And to that extent, I'd agree with you that that we need to look at our system there. You referenced a situation where you ship stuff and you say you're experiencing difficulty with it. Are you operating a registered charity?
No. The shipment that we shipped was shipped to the Diaspora. So we are not a 501c3.
When you say ship through the diaspora, I mean, could you just outline exactly what you...
As the security coordinator for Northeast region, and see the need of what we... As the security coordinator for the Northeast Diaspora, and see the need for what we are trying to engage and in the community with the youths. So we started out this learning center, so we get computers, wheelchairs, and things like those.
I don't want to
send those down. So we are not a 501c3 organization.
Right. Just try and understand the difficulty that we would. Yes.
Okay, so we're a 501c3 organization here in New Zealand, and we ship down two crates, 2 barrels, and the person that we shipped it to is for a community, and they said that they need to have invoices. And so I said, how do we get invoices for a community collaboration? And this is, it's as if to say, and this is not the first time that we have done this. It's like almost every time we ship something, unless we ship with another partnership with another organization that constantly ships stuff to Jamaica, which is AFJ. Apparently AFJ is probably one of the only organizations that can actually get stuff done. It's maybe because of their connections and funding and all of those things. So that's something that Ron and I work on with AFJ. But however, this particular shipment that we sent down, and we have sent down others, and why we decided as an organization to partner with another organization is just because of the red tapes that we go through. It's as if to say that Jamaica really makes it difficult to be supportive of Jamaica. Jenny's heart sitting over there, Miss Matty Lou. I remember Jenny's getting stuff, and we needed to, Yale was changing out their beds and their sheets and everything, and we contacted people to ship the stuff to Jamaica. And it was so ridiculous, the stuff that we were told, that the shipment that she had to be sent to Jamaica was sent to another country. And so it's very hard.
You know, I want to say this to you. Right now, our garage is full. A couple of years ago, we shipped down 400 pound of sheets. We brought it down and gave to KPH, which was, they didn't have no sheets. We just sent down 2 containers of medical products. It cost us $11,000 to ship it down. We find the sponsor to pay for the shipping. I know friends from this community right in Hartford that has boxes, that have big crates of stuff that is shipped down 3 years ago. It's still in Wharf for hospital in Black River. There are folks here, Kay and her mother, pack barrels. We have pictures of it. Pack barrels, rent a U-Haul truck and send it down, and we had to use our means of access, relationship from what we had, and find people to pay for shipping and get it in Jamaica to get it in the right hands. And it's a real issue because folks here mean well, and they're trying to help. Not just to send money, but to send products and back to school. Back to school is coming up. Every year they want a back to school program here. And they have a hard time getting to the people that's needed. And wheelchairs, we got wheelchairs. Right now, I got 45, I got 45 recovered chairs to send to Jamaica. We need 30 beds for Chapter Hospital right now. So these are real issues we're having with the connectivity with the diaspora to get things in. And I really don't want to talk to you about that. My issue to you is this. The question I have for you, if you don't mind, segue in. I went to CAS. I was at CAS recently.
No,
College of-
you're dating yourself.
Yes, I have no idea. I have no problem doing that. It's a deliberate action when I tell you I went to CAS to tell you that I've been around. And I remember they were telling me that the light bill was $400,000 a year. I went to Tarrant. I went to Tarrant School. If you know anything about Tarrant, they have low-rise roofing all over the place. And I asked the question, where are the solar panels? CAS, the engineering school. You're creating an industry for employment. You have the space and the place. Is it the fact that the solar panel would compete with the power company there? Why there's no effort or interest in promoting that? I have folks in Jamaica call me how to get solar panel down for their homes. I have friends that are moving down solar panel for their house. I was going to call last week with my cousin in Atlanta. So I listened to your presentation, and you talk about the 20% state that the government have in JPS. Why aren't we talking about solar and we have it there? I can take any school, our school, any school, you see the roof is there, the sun is there. At Tarrant, there is a cement company that's right there on Mullines Road. That cement company pretty much take care of the area. Why is it they're not harvesting the power that comes from the roof? You create employment, you bring another industry into the island, and you solve the problem with crime. That's a fact. So, trust me, these folks, they've been around the tape. They've been around at this a long time, and you're in the facility where you can imagine all the elected officials of Jamaica have been there. So we've been spinning the wheel over and over and over, and we're not getting there. And again, just to let you know, the name is Rowan Stewart. You asked me my name earlier.
Thank you, Rowan Stewart. Senator, before you go forward, our mayor of Hartford just walked in. Luke Browning, sir, could you take a stand? Thank you for showing. We'll meet them later. Senator, before you get to the answer, I have a suggestion of people asking me, are there protocols, like information of what people need to do to get things to Jamaica without going through all these prototypes? And
All right. Good. To assist some of you, I used to work with the Jamaica Customs Agency as well. Now, many of the issues you are speaking about is really the clearances through Jamaica Customs. When the goods arrive, they have to be cleared by customs before they can be accepted. Now, there is a process, and I'm glad you asked that question, because many times it's best to reach out to the Jamaica Customs Agency, understand what are the requirements for charity. Because I think even recently the Ministry of Finance has established a protocol as what is charity and how charitable goods are to be treated. So the first port of call before you ship anything is reach out to the Jamaica Customs Agency, because when these goods come to the port, and if they don't have the correct documentation, because those things have to be prepared even before they are shipped. So the approvals, when they are preparing the entry, and your custom broker is preparing the entry, it will be classified as charitable goods and products, and then it will be treated, and some of these approvals for them to be treated has to be approved by the Ministry of Finance. So there are some organizations which are in Jamaica, which have been approved as charitable organizations. So my suggestion before you ship anything, first thing is get in touch with the Jamaica Customs Agency. They have a good website, and they are very community-oriented. They have a lot of information. Then the other thing is they have to get the approvals from the Ministry of Finance to say they can waive the duty on these things. Because remember, once it's charitable, You want all duties on these products. So you're going to send 300 wheelchairs, are what they have to protect. Think of it from the custom side. Because what you want is when the 300 wheelchairs come for Kingston Public Hospital, for Anatobia Hospital, for Spanish Town Hospital, one thing you want as the donor is to make sure if you were 100 was for Spanish Town, 100 was for KPH, and 100 was for Anatobia, that when you reach Spanish Town, they can show you. And you don't hear that 50 of your 100 is selling on Spanish Town Road. And I'm being frank. Right, so what they have to do, and I tell you, 'cause I was in customs, you have to get the approvals. All approvals must be had before you ship. And I implore all of you, get in touch with the Jamaica Customs Agency. Let them walk you through the process. They can, if something is to come through the Ministry of Health, Health has to approve it because Jamaica has specifications. And for my alma mater, Calabar, and the Calabar people here, show your hands. No Calabar people sit. All right? As long as no KC people here, I'm good. All right? But the old boys or the past students from Calabar, so when they're shipping down, we get the clearance from the school, we go to the Ministry of Finance, get their approvals, and then it goes through the custom broker who is to prepare the entry. So when the goods arrive, they are properly classified and you experience as little problem as possible. I've heard this story even when I was in customs many years ago. And what you first have to do, even the organization that you're sending it to, is that a registered organization. Because we have had the other side of the horror stories, where many persons have sent down a lot of stuff from many schools, and it doesn't reach the school, it ends up on the road being sold. Now, the government loses the duty, you lose the product, and the person who you expected it lose. So everybody lose. We don't want that. So I just strongly suggest get in touch with Jamaica Customs Agency first. Also find out, I think there's a section in the Ministry of Finance that deals with charities and donations. Find out from them what are the requirements for you to ship particular things. So if there is educational things, they have a process for that. If it's health things, they have a process. And once you get all of those things done first and get your paperwork in place, then you prepare and submit your shipment. Because what is happening is when it arrives in the island and the paperwork, the entry is not properly filled, there's no letter from the Ministry of Finance waiving the duty. Customs is a government agency like PICA. We have to get our instructions from the ministry. Mine from National Security, Customs is from Finance. So until they see that letter that says, this duty for these 300 wheelchairs or these 500 sheets has been waived, they are going to treat it as a normal shipment. So I think the first port of call, find out from Customs Agency, how do you ship travel products and products back to Jamaica. And then now you have to have a proper custom broker. Very important. You must find a registered custom broker who in Jamaica knows how to clear these goods and can advise you on the documentation that you will need, so when you make the shipment and pack the container and send it, it lands and it is cleared with no problem.
Thank you very much. I just want to ask two simple questions in terms of the economic development of Jamaica. The IMF, the International Monetary Fund, I'm just wondering, Jamaicans are working very hard, and at one point, each dollar that we make, a lot went to IMF. That's one question. What impact does that have on us as a people from the diaspora? And the second one is that the highway system. And the highway system in Jamaica, the Chinese control it. I'm not sure if people are aware of that. And the highway system is fully controlled, in a way, by the Chinese. I'm just wondering what is Parliament doing about those two issues?
About the ownership.
Two issues, the impact that the IMF fund has on Jamaica, the impact it has on Jamaica. Because every dollar that we earn as Jamaicans, as businessmen and women, a greater percentage of that went on to the IMF, International Monetary Fund. So I'm just wondering if you could comment on that.
Well, let me say, fortunately, the present government has so conducted its own business that it no longer requires or is using anything from the IMF. It's no longer doing that, and we sincerely hope that that will continue.
Just want to thank you guys for everything, and
Second question. Second question.
Could you just remind me that this?
The Chinese
Chinese on the highway.
Well, the Chinese came at a time to finish what it's the French and another group had left us with. That is the north-south highway. And when it came to up Mount Russell, the top of that hill there, it had split in half. The engineering works were bad. This Jamaica state did not have those funds at the time. And so they engaged the Chinese, and the Chinese are the ones who did the works. We have entered into a relationship with the Chinese where we've given them a lease on the operations of the highway. So all the revenue from the highway goes to the Chinese, because we couldn't fund that. There's, you know, it was just not. We were just not able to fund that. So they're the ones who are funding that, and you pay a charge once you enter onto that highway. You pay a charge, and that, I think the agreement is for 50 years. You see, what the alternative is. The alternative is we couldn't lock down Mount Russell. If you're still entitled to drive for free. But you have to make a determination as to whether it is more cost effective to pay the fees on that north-south highway, if it is more cost effective. Because if you want to navigate those treacherous hills up going up Mount Russell, you may. It's not closed. But there is an alternative, and if you want to access that, you pay a fee for it. You know, it's weigh that against the number of lives which has been saved, and the time, the commerce which has been facilitated by building that highway. And it goes beyond that. It used to take the average person 3.5 hours out of Montego Bay to get to Kingston. You can get to Kingston from Montego Bay in half the time. How much do you save in terms of petrol and the associated cost? Those are things that you have to weigh up. There's a cost of doing anything that you can contemplate doing in this life. The question is it more cost effective to do it this way as opposed to that way? And the one thing we couldn't do is to close Mount Russell and say, you must go on the highway.
I guess I have the last question. I just want to say thank you for this evening. But being someone in the medical field for over 32 years, working in an operating room at a major facility, I have reaped the benefits of that place thereof, because if you might not be aware, in 2019, we had a situation where we were using, we had some masks that we had thousands of them. And for some reason, somebody deemed them was not the mask that they needed. And so I was in the operations area, and the manager says, Hart, you always send stuff to Jamaica. You want them mask, yeah? I said, where you going to do them? I said, go and throw them in the garbage. I said, no, I'll take them. And I've not parked in my garage in 25 years. My car is parked outside because of all the charitable work that I've done. And so I brought home those masks, and Rowan will attest to it. Thousands of masks. And Rowan, we packed crates in a 40-foot trailer. And we realized that COVID came in. And so those masks had to be taken off and could not be shipped because they would not have reached the destination thereof. And they had to be air freighted to my lovely country to help in the hospitals and operating rooms at university and at KPH so they could continue in surgery. When we went to Jamaica in 2018, Kay, myself, Rowan, and a bunch of us, we took so much stuff that we gave KPH, UE, and there's a place, I think it's halfway tree, Women's Center, that we collected clothing for the teenager mom that had children. I have not stopped picking up stuff. I was just telling Rowan, when can you relieve my basement and my garage? My house looked like a warehouse. Because again, there was stuff. I picked up wheelchairs, walker, canes, crutches, anything that you can think of presently. So I hear what the Peacock said over there about, getting, finding an agent in Jamaica. That is the longest telephone call you want to make and run around. What I'm suggesting, and maybe it'd be an idea or not, I have personally given Jamaica so much personally. When there was hurricane disasters, Verna called me, she said, Hart, what can you get? I called the surgeons I work with. They said, Giants, here's a surgeon used to give me his credit card when there was a storm in Jamaica. I went to Sam's Club, Restaurant Depot, and purchased stuff, drove it in my truck. Up here, I could be the only person in that truck, brought up barrels and barrels and barrels, and shipped all that stuff to Jamaica. What I'm saying is that people from the Northeast Connecticut area are also willing to give stuff. I could give you stuff weekly. So I think there should be an organization in Jamaica, or the government or whoever, is that agency is responsible to just take gifts. Take charitable stuff. I don't care who get it. Give it to somebody needy. I have a trailer load of stuff to give you. I have hand sanitizers up the wazoo, maybe about 10,000 of them. Individual bottles you can give. They're in cases. I got operating stuff. I got stuff till I can't tell you what I got. I got stuff that medical students can use to practice so they can become damn good surgeons. But it's stuck at my house because I have to be waiting for this young man here to bring friends. They come, I buy the barrels, we pack the barrels. I have at least 20 barrels or 25 barrels of stuff at my house right now. So if there's an agency in Jamaica, we pack it, we send it to them. They look around and say, I need one in John Village, I need one in Brown Village. I don't care where you give it to. I'm just giving it to you. So having us to do the legwork and then call Jamaica to go through that red tape, it's kind of tough.
You see this lady to my right?
Okay, may I just
Whenever you have
respond,
stuff that just-
Minister? No, she doesn't have to send anything to me. Because it seems as though people do not have the information that they need. There is an agency in Jamaica for everything. For health, there's the National Health and Wellness Foundation. That foundation is attached to the Ministry of Health. For you to ship all those items that you have currently in your basement and in your garage too. All you have to do, and the gentleman that's in charge of the National Health and Wellness Foundation, Mr. Courtney Shifas, is very accessible. I will give you his contact number, I'll give you his email. You call him, he will answer. The only thing that you need to do is when you call him to say, I would like to ship items to Jamaica for KPH or Spanish Town Hospital or Mandeville Hospital, whichever hospital you want it to go to. He is going to send you a spreadsheet. Like I had to do it. He's going to send you a spreadsheet because, as Mr. Winter says, he needs to go to the Ministry of Finance to get a waiver. So he sends you the spreadsheet. You have 500 beds. You say, I have 500 beds. You have 50 million wheelchairs. You say, I have 50 million wheelchairs. You have 1,000 masks. You say, I have 1,000 masks. And then you say, I want 100 of the 500 beds to go to KPH, 100 of the 500 beds to go to Spanish Town Hospital, and it's delivered there. When you ship the items, on this side, you would have to pay to ship the items, unless you have a shipping company that will allow you to ship the items without charging you. When you ship the items, you would have to ship the items in your name and the Health and Wellness Foundation's name, because the waiver that they receive from the Ministry of Finance will be in both your names. For the for educational items, there's the National Educational Trust Foundation. I know this because I just shipped down 4,500 tablets. And on this side, I had to either pay for the items. Luckily, I was able to call a shipping company that afforded me the opportunity not to pay for the items. So they shipped them for free. On the receiving side, I filled out that spreadsheet that I'm telling you about. It was sent to me from the National Educational Trust. The woman that's in charge of that foundation, Ms. Harris, very accessible. Sometimes I speak to her at midnight because I'm too busy to speak to her during the day. She sends the spreadsheet and it says how many tablets, how many laptops, how many pens, how many pencils, and I just fill it in. In fact, the last shipment that I shipped about 6 weeks ago, I had a number of pens, pencils, and so forth that I had received from Kodak. So I had no idea how many pens was in the box, and I estimated it. I had no idea how many rulers were in the box, right? And I estimated it. I logged it in the spreadsheet. I sent it off to her, and some persons that donated tablets to me, they wanted these tablets to go to their school. So in the spreadsheet, I would say, Ms. Corinne Olness donated 50 tablets, and she would like the 50 tablets to be delivered to Spanish Town Primary. Here is the number of the principal at Spanish Town Primary that you are to contact to pick up the 50 tablets. Ms. Holness, though, would have to call that principal to inform her that she's sending 50 tablets to her school by way of NET, and she's to expect the call. And that's exactly what happened with the 4,500 tablets and laptops that I have shipped down. So there is a process, and I think what we need to do is a better job of giving persons the information that they need as it relates to how, because it pains my heart when you say to me or to the crowd that your basement and your garage is filled to capacity with items that I personally know that hospitals in Jamaica are in need of. During COVID-19, had I known you, I would have called you and took those masks. I called a friend of mine that owns a building in New York and asked him if he could purchase 10,000 masks for me. And he did, and then dropped them off at my office. And then I asked Dennis Shipping to ship them down. And then I called the Health and Wellness Foundation, and I said, I have 10,000 masks that I just dropped off at the shipping company. Now, I don't need to tell them where they need to go because, of course, all the hospitals were in need of masks. But they sent me the spreadsheet. I fill them out, you know, how many masks, and they ask you what type. Are they in?
95.
Yes, there you go. And I said, 95. That's the first time I actually knew that, you know, these N9, and I said N95s, and then I had some sanitizers, I had maybe about 400 of those. I said 400 hand sanitizers, and they asked what size, and I just drop it in a spreadsheet, and I sent it off. And I can't tell you how many persons from various hospitals called the consulate to thank me for these masks. I didn't send it personally to the hospital, just through the National Health and to the Health and Wellness Foundation, right? So there are these agencies that you're asking about, but it just pains me that, especially you in the hospital setting that have all these items, you don't have the information.
I can get stuff daily because, like, when we have surgery, and like we put the stuff on the table, and the case is canceled, the stuff is still sterile, towels. I mean, just crazy stuff. So this young man can attest to it. I can't bring anything else home. I don't know where to put it. Like today, I walked by the place where they put, we call it remedy because other staff send stuff to their country, and we have an agency that they travel the world and they just bring stuff. I walked by the area that they so-called don't not want this stuff. It was I hated till it just running over. And it ended up in the garbage.
Right. And so, what you can do for now is, as it relates to your medical items that you have that you would like to donate, you can, if you reach out to us at the consulate, my deputy here will take your contact, and if you reach out to him, we will take those items from you, and we will call the Health and Wellness Foundation, and Mr. Cephas in my office will get them into Jamaica. It is really not difficult, believe it or not. And I know this because I just shipped down 4,500 tablets. And it is not because I am the Consul General, because I had to fill out that spreadsheet as well. In fact, about 3 months ago, a gentleman sent me a message, a DM message on Instagram, and he was very frustrated. He said that he has a school that he had attended in Clarendon, and he went down to Jamaica on vacation. He heard the plea from the Minister of Education that our students are without devices. He brought down 15 tablets, and he got to the airport, and he was charged at the airport, right? And he said that he explained at the airport that the tablets were to be donated to his high school. And of course, they wouldn't listen to him. So, after much frustration, he paid. There was a post that went up on my Instagram page, and he saw that the first shipment of tablets that we had shipped down was 1,300. So he wanted to know, how did I get to, and so I explained to him that if he had called the National Educational Trust to let them know that he was coming with these tablets, they would have issued the waiver that he would have needed to, to show at customs at the immigration, when he got into the airport. Fast forward to 2 months later, he was going back to Jamaica. This time he was taking 30 tablets. You know what he did? He sent me a message, who do I contact at the National Educational Trust? I messaged him back, the woman's email address, her name, and her phone number. He went to Jamaica, sent me, and I still have the pictures, sent me pictures of himself and friends handing out the 30 tablets, and thanked me. He said this time he had absolutely no problem because he contacted the National Educational Trust. So I understand the frustration that that you're having, but I think part of the problem is because we're not aware the information that you need. We're not aware that these organizations, the agencies, are there for these purposes.
Thank you so much. With respect to time, I know CG and them have to go back. We're just going to take one more question, and the gentleman have a statement, and that's it. Any other questions, please direct them to me or my co-chair, Diane Young Rodney, right here, and we'll get to the CG and the CRO to do it. But before we do, the mayor has to go. This Honorable Mayor Luke Bronin from Hartford have a few words to say. Mr. Bronin?
Good evening, everyone. I just wanted to come by because it was we're so proud to host this delegation here in Hartford. I'm sure that this is not your first time at the West Indian Social Club, but you know this is the heart and center of this large and proud and strong Jamaican community and West Indian community here in Hartford. And so Senator, the Honorable Leslie Campbell, and Consul General Wilson, and the Vice Consuls, and all the other members of the delegation, on behalf of the City of Hartford, just please know how proud we are to have you here, how grateful we are for the conversation that's come before, and also just to say how much we look forward to continuing to strengthen the already strong ties between Jamaica and our community, and doing everything we can to continue to promote trade and enterprise between our communities. I know there have been a lot of important topics talked about tonight, but one of the most important for our city is how we can strengthen that economic relationship, strengthen relationships of trade. We do hope one day to have a direct connection from Bradley Airport to Jamaica, and I know there are many in here who are working for that, and we'll do everything we can, and we would ask for your help and support as well, because this relationship is deeply meaningful to our community. So welcome, thank you, safe travels, and God bless.